Welcome, I'm Steve Cook, Superintendent of Coeur d'Alene Public Schools, and welcome back to school. We are so glad that you guys are here to join us right now. We're also excited about opportunities that we have for the school year. And thanks for coming back, first of all. We didn't know what this was going to entail. 5 months ago when we started down this journey of a global pandemic, we had no idea what the beginning of school would look like. Well, it's here, it's now. You're probably watching this from your classroom or maybe even at home, but likely during that week in which we would be starting school. Our board recognized some of the issues that we were trying to get ready for and gave us the opportunity to start school a week later. So hopefully we're going to be able to spend all that time getting things ready, getting it prepared so our students and staff can remain safe for the entire year. So I'm sure many of you have questions, concerns about how this is all going to happen. I can tell you we've spent the entire summer getting plans and processes in place to ensure that we can do this safely and do it well and still deliver the primary function of teaching and learning in our classrooms with our students. Those plans are ready and available for you. Talk to your supervisors, talk to your teammates, your colleagues about what those things might look like, and we'll get them available to you so that you know and have all the things you're going to need to be able to do this well and to do it safely. And I would just ask you to be patient. Calm yourselves. Don't let worry get control of you. We've got answers and we have supports, and we'll make sure that we can provide those things for you so that you feel like you can do your job well, safely, and with great confidence. Remember, this isn't about wearing masks. This isn't about a global pandemic. This is about teaching and learning in classrooms so that kids' goals and kids' needs are being met. And we've got to keep our eye on that focal point while doing it safely. And so what we're working on right now is how do we put all those systems in place so that the doing it safely becomes part of what you need to hear from us and becomes second nature for you and for the kids. We're going to do this, and we're going to do it well. And actually, I just want to take a little bit of time to point out some of the really great successes we've got going right now. Number one, did you know we opened a brand new school? Nexa is going to be available for our kids. It looks amazing out on Prairie. If you haven't driven by, you gotta go see it. It's amazing. And our kids are going to love that school. Our staff that works there is going to love that school. Go take a look at it. Secondly, I think it's really important for you to know we've got a brand new learning management system. And that learning management system is going to help you no matter what kind of the circumstances we're in. When this is all over and we're just back to the business of doing great things in classrooms for kids, Schoology is going to be a support mechanism for you. And it's an amazing tool. Get in there, learn how to use it, and find out great ways that you can do dynamic things for students. And lastly, I think it's really important for us to recognize that we built and got our strategic plan approved by the board this summer. It is going to provide you with all kinds of resources and opportunity to do great things in the name of student learning. When you talk about social emotional learning, whole child experience, our portrait of a graduate work, focus on equity and deep engagement in teaching and learning in the classroom by using our instructional framework to maximize student performance. It's exciting. That's a really big deal. We spent a lot of time last year building all those things and getting that put together with community input, with staff input, families, students, everybody pushed into that work, and we're really excited to start rolling that out. All right, so we took some opportunity to get questions from you, questions that some people would submit that we've been hearing a lot from, and different things that people wanted to know about. So let's take just a little bit of time to go through some of those questions and see if we can give you answers to those. What is the first week of school supposed to look like since we're in a hybrid model? So let's start off with number one. School starts on September 14th for every kid. Let's make sure we understand that. There's not 2 first days of school. Every kid should have expectations for what school looks like on September 14th. And as a matter of fact, we would hope that it becomes so clear that this is the first day back since these kids have been out for summer and out for 3 months last spring, that we want you to really focus on the beginning of school, bringing these kids back into community, having them work and interact with one another, building that classroom environment so that it's a sensible community, right? So that people know and understand what their roles are and how they can get back in this. It isn't that we've got two groups, an A group and a B group, and those are two different classes. You have one class that those kids need to be together, or if you're a secondary teacher, that you're building that sense of togetherness for all kids. So what does that look like, and how is that going to happen? We're not going to dictate that, but we want you to know that first week of school needs to be about celebrating we're back together, we're building a sense of community, we're getting to know each other, we're laughing, we're talking about things, maybe we're talking about some heavy things. A lot of people have gone through some difficult stuff this summer, but bring them back into community and do so from a sense of compassion, love, and empathy for each other so that kids start to recognize they belong. Kids should be doing something that first week of school, and it should be reflective of our values, the kind of things that we want happening in our classrooms. All right, next question. So what will happen when a student in my class is sick? So students get sick, teachers, staff members get sick. I'm assuming the question means what happens if a student has COVID. And I think I would tell you, well, first of all, it's going to happen. I think we have to recognize with what's going on in our community, this will happen. And I think then the next step is we have to find out how well we're doing it, some of the mitigation efforts that we've put into place. If you know, the most important thing is social distancing. And so when we come back, we're coming back in orange, then we're going to hopefully someday switch to yellow, and perhaps someday even have to switch to red based upon what's going on in our community. The way that we would handle each one of those cases, whether it's an adult or student, is to see, first of all, we want to make sure that student gets their needs met. They're going to have to get quarantined if they're positive. Quarantining means 14 days. And any kid or any adult that's exposed, and exposure has a very specific definition. Were you in close contact for a period of more than 15 minutes with these kids, or did you hug them or physically come in contact with those students, then you might qualify to be considered somebody that has to be quarantined as well. We're going to ask that you know these rules, know and understand what those expectations are, so that we can try to do our best. That's one of the reasons in Orange we spread kids out as much as we can, because our goal is to not have to take a bunch of people out every time there's a positive case in the schools. What if I can't wear a mask? So the board passed a policy in which that the expectation is, if we're in yellow or orange, that everyone is required to wear a mask. There are caveats, and there are ways to receive accommodations to not have to wear a mask. There are health conditions in which you'd be entitled not to have to wear a mask, and it just requires a doctor's note. We've got a form that's all ready for you to take to your physician to get that taken care of. And we'll work with you, and we'll find ways to help you with those accommodations. And those, if you need those conditions so that you're aware of what qualifies, we're glad to share those with you. All right, next one. I'm a classified employee. Will I still work on Wednesdays when there are no students in our schools? If not, will I lose my benefits? This is a really tough one. So first of all, remember, in Orange, we don't have students in schools on Wednesdays, in case you didn't know that. There are going to be some needs for some of our classified folk to do work on Wednesdays, and we'll make sure that you're aware of those opportunities. It's going to be a challenge, it's going to be difficult, but on Wednesdays, since the students aren't in the classroom, not all of the services that we offer are going to continue. But there are some opportunities. You might be helping with tutoring students that are online, getting services from teachers in a remote learning experience. We are going to be still delivering some food to some locations, things like that. There are some opportunities, not a ton, but there are some opportunities for staff to work on Wednesdays if it's necessary. And we're going to commit to, we'll do everything we can to make sure that employees who are benefited employees remain benefited employees. All right, next question. What's with Schoology? I loved Google Classroom. Why did we switch? Well, first of all, Schoology can do a whole lot more than Google Classroom. There's lots more opportunity, and it's a much more effective tool than Google Classroom. And we're excited to be able to give you that opportunity to use that. At the end of this year, if you still believe Google Classroom is better, please come tell me. I'd love to hear that story. So what if I'm scared to be in the classroom with students, but I don't necessarily have serious health issues to request an accommodation? This is tough. I think there's a lot of fear out there right now. I talk to teachers, principals, folks right now. There's a lot of worry, a lot of anxiety right now because we're in the unknown and we don't know what to do. And I would just tell you, we've got a lot of resources. Number one, talk to your supervisor if you're worried. Talk to your, you can talk to HR too if you're really concerned. We've got supports for you. We've got ways that we can help you. If it's a big enough issue for you, we even have employee assistance things that we can provide and support that we can give you. But I think first of all, let's just face the fears and say, okay, what is it that we're worried about and how can we do things that might help mitigate those fears? We're here to help and we intend to help, and we're looking for those opportunities. So let us know. Talk to your supervisors and let's get those conversations out on the table. There are lots and lots of solutions we can put in place that can help keep people safe and help manage worry. All right, for all you teachers out there, in blended learning, which in this case I'm assuming means when we're in orange, do we slow the pace of covering the curriculum? The answer to that is absolutely not. Please don't slow the pace of covering curriculum. Now, we might have to make some decisions on what's most essential, but the goal nonetheless isn't that when we're in orange that we're doing half the amount of teaching and learning that we are when we're in yellow or green. Ultimately, we need you to teach the kids the things they need to know to be able to be successful in whatever comes next. And so let's be thoughtful about that. And I want to make sure that people understand that we're not talking about when we're in orange that kids that are in school on Monday, Tuesday are getting some lessons and then we're repeating those lessons on Thursday, Friday. We still have kids in classrooms all 5 days. It just so happens that 3 of those days are going to be online. So what we want you to think about are different ways to do that work. And so with blended learning or hybrid learning, whatever we're going to call that, you've got half your kids in front of you and you got half your kids online. So think in that vein, not that these kids are here now, I'll teach them, and then in a couple of days these kids will come and I'll teach them something that I taught on Monday, Tuesday. So please, if you don't understand that, I'm glad to talk with you more about it or talk with your supervisor. We can give you clarification. And quite frankly, it's the number one reason we purchased Schoology was because it helps support that work in such an effective manner. Get in there and do that training and hopefully that will help. This is a very real question too. What happens if we see a large number of students in our e-school wanting to come back into their home schools, especially when we go from orange to yellow? So right now we have about 1,300 students, K-12, in our e-school. Some of those intend to stay there for the year. I think some of those are hedging a little bit. Families have chosen that because it seems to fit their needs for now. And there's a very real likelihood as the year goes on that we might have some people moving out of e-school into the regular brick and mortar schools and out of brick and mortar schools into the e-school. And we're going to do our best. We're going to do our best to manage that and do it in ways that will make it work. I've been telling people number one rule this year is be flexible. Number two rule is be nimble. And in the meantime, trying to create and provide stable environments. I can promise you it's not going to look like last year. It's a once in 100-year global pandemic that we're managing right now and trying to navigate. That flexibility is going to be a necessity for us to do this successfully this year. So yeah, do I think that's going to happen? I do think that there are going to be students that want to move in and out. We've asked that we do it in kind of a controlled fashion and not just at any given moment. We ask for things like wait till grading periods and try to get a little bit of stability. But it's possible that there could be some changes as the year goes, for sure. Okay, and so for the last question, I'm worried about my sick leave. I'm worried about what happens to me if I get asked or sent out of the classroom because of potential exposure. So this is actually something that the board and our team has discussed quite extensively this summer. And there are some things in place that are going to help with this. Number one, first of all, know this. You have protection. Every employee has protection from the updated FMLA law that that the feds pushed out early in the year, back in March. And essentially what it is that every employee gets 2 weeks of paid Family Medical Leave Act leave that they can access in a situation like this. So that's yours to have. You will have at least 2 weeks in which you can access that first, and that becomes the very first point of access if somebody has to leave, whether they're sick or they're asked to quarantine. The second thing is the board passed an emergency policy this year that allows you, if quarantined, if you're expected to quarantine and you're asymptomatic, that would allow you to access your sick leave if you needed to. Additionally, we also had a policy put into place that if you can do your job from home, that it provides guidance and access for what it would look like to telecommute. So if there are positions in the district in which you potentially serve in one of those positions where you're asked to quarantine because of a potential exposure, but you're not ill, you could actually do your job from home and not lose pay at all and not have to use any leave. Not everybody's going to qualify with that, but at least many of you could at least look at that option. And then I think last but not least, we're working on some things to put in front of the board that would allow that now educators are considered part of critical infrastructure work that would potentially speed up that 14-day quarantine process a little bit with some testing. That's not done yet. We've got some work to do with that, and the board would ultimately have to approve those recommendations, but we're working on that right now, and hopefully we can get that in place soon. Okay guys, it's a brand new year. It's 2020. We have questions going into the year, kind of circumstances beyond our control, but let's not stop there. It's still a year of school. We have real school with real teachers and real students doing real work. And we want you to take advantage of that. We want you to push kids to do wonderful, amazing things, to produce great products, to have great learning experiences, and for you to have a very exciting and enjoyable year this year in providing that. There's a lot going on, but we can do it well, we can do it together, and we can have a fantastic school year.
Don't be like Mr. Bungle. Have good lunchtime manners, and lunch will be more fun for everyone.